are now joined by UFC lightweight Jim Miller. Thank you for joining us, Jim.
Thank you.
Our first question is from Jay Anderson with Kate Side Press.
Hey, thanks very much, Jim, and welcome back. You're going to pull even again with Cowboy in this one, I believe, for the most fights in the UFC. But I want to ask, is this kind of the strangest set of circumstances you've ever fought in, with a pandemic, an empty arena looking ahead?
Yeah, it's a weird one. Haven't haven't been to Vegas and it be this deserted. Haven't had a training camp with as small a team as I had, and yeah, it's definitely odd. I will say though, the atmosphere that we're dealing with now still better than fighting in Fayetteville at the Fight for the Troops in my second one. That one was a little bit tough because we were like in the barracks. So we'll get it done. It's really no issue though.
What are you doing to stay busy in the hotel? Because I imagine you're pretty much quarantined right now.
You know what? It's been really nice because the room next to mine has a workout area in it, so I've been able to pretty easily get some work done. And I'm not usually the type that goes out and about anyway during fight week. Just dealing with my weight and doing what I need to do, as opposed to I'm not the type to go to the movies or the mall or anything like that.
And speaking of weight cuts, if I'm not mistaken, this is at 160-pound catch weight. How did that come about?
I was asking Sean for a fight at either 55s or 70s. He said he had Roosevelt, and that Roosevelt wasn't comfortable making 55s as quickly. Coming off that last fight, so he threw out 160s, and I was perfectly okay with that.
And last one for me. Speaking about your opponent, I mean, a young up-and-comer, nowhere near the experience that you have, but what's your take on fighting kind of a rising guy coming off a big win over Brock Weaver?
I imagine myself in his position, and I'd be super fired up on cloud nine, coming into a fight like that. So I'm expecting a dangerous guy that's got nothing to lose. He's got a little momentum behind him, and he's fighting a guy who's been around for a while. So he's going to be a dangerous man inside the Octagon.
All right. Thanks for your time, Jim, and looking forward to Saturday.
Thank you.
Our next question is from Stephen Morocco. Stephen, your line has been unmuted.
Oh, I'm sorry. I didn't realize I didn't put my hand up or put my hand down. Sorry.
No problem. We'll jump to Mike Bond. Mike, your line has been unmuted.
I'm curious, you mentioned a little bit the conditions of the training camp here. Do you think that was beneficial to you? I mean, we've heard from a couple of the other fighters today saying that, the shorter camps, the lack of notice a little bit, there's upside to it because you're not overtraining, you're not overthinking the scenario you're going into. Was that kind of the benefits for you too?
Yeah, I do like the shorter notice ones because there is less of that getting in your own head. And dealing with the grind that comes with, training for a fight for 8-10 weeks. But at the same time, like I have been training for the last 2 months or so, and it's been cool to kind of get back to that small group stuff and really make every session about me. Having a stable of young fighters around me, like they're always fighting and getting ready for fights, and training sessions were, I was the only guy with anything on the deck. So, it was all about just making me better and getting me in the best shape that I can and as sharp as possible. So yeah, there have been definitely some upsides to it. The downside is that I didn't have as big a team. I didn't have as big a group of guys. So you're missing out on a little bit of that, the camaraderie and the typical cool things that come with having a group of guys that are doing the same thing as you.
Yeah, and it got mentioned off the top, this record-tying 35th fight here. What's this number going to look like when it's all said and done? Is it going to be 40? Is it going to be 50? How many do you have left in you?
It'll be 40. I'm pretty confident with the way that I'm feeling that I'll get to 40. 50, I don't know. We'll see where it goes. I'm playing it, fight by fight, and I look ahead and I see UFC 300 in like 4 years, and I'm like, I don't know if I can make it that far, but it would be pretty cool to fight on 100, 200, and 300. So um, I'm not hung up on that idea. I'm not focused on that idea, but like I said, where I'm at, another 5 fights after this. If I get to fight at the pace that I want to, that's a less than 2 years. So I can easily handle that.
Yeah, do you think maybe you tweak your approach to how many fights you're taking? Like maybe, shrink it down to 1 fight a year or something like that to kind of, extend the longevity?
No, actually the opposite. I if I got to fight as often as I wanted to, I'd have probably just about 40 fights now anyway. But yeah, it's for me, it's just easier to stay in it. I've been fortunate enough, knock on wood, that I haven't had to deal with anything super crazy coming out of any of these fights. And I've got plenty of injuries that I deal with, plenty of nagging stuff, but nothing's required surgery yet. So yeah, if for me to stay in the gym and have that goal ahead, it's easier for me to just keep on chugging along. And there's so many things now with a large family and the kids growing, and running the business and all these other things that pull me away if I give the opportunity. So I'm good at focusing in on fighting when there's that fight ahead, but it becomes really difficult if there isn't. So yeah, if I could fight every 3 months, I'd be pretty happy with that.
Well, and the last one for me, where do you draw motivation for a fight like this? Obviously, you've headlined cards, you've fought guys who are world champions, top contenders, all that kind of stuff. You're fighting someone who's much lesser known and is a pretty young guy in the game in terms of how long he's been in the UFC. So what drives you and what gets you up every day to train for a fight like this?
It's a fight. I've never looked over anybody, and it's an opportunity for me to show off my skill set. It's an opportunity for me to get paid. There's plenty of things to be looking forward to about it. And like my goal is to fight to my full potential. And even at 34 fights in the UFC so far, I feel like I've come close, but I haven't quite cracked the code on how to fight perfectly every time. Like I want to be able to just turn that switch on and be at my best. And it's hard. It's really hard to kind of stay out of your own head and not let any of the things that are out of your control creep in. But yeah, it's that's the challenge. That's the thing that I'm trying to beat. It's really just beating myself and the atmosphere. It never really has anything to do with my opponent. They're just an opportunity and a particular skill set that'll hopefully match up well with mine and me show what I'm capable of. But yeah, it's kind of just it's beating everything else. It's dealing with that part and and all the other things that just pop up.
And sorry, I do have one more just based off what you said there. Where has been the closest to that perfection you got? I mean, the last 3 wins you've had have all been first round submissions, pretty quick, less than around 2 minutes each or less. So do you feel you were pretty close there with those Gonzalez and Guida wins? Obviously, the last one didn't go your way, but there's been moments where things have clicked consistently.
Yeah, I do feel like I was close with those. I mean, Guida hit me pretty hard, So, fortunately, that kind of, I was super excited for that fight. That one was just to be able to share the octagon with Clay. I've been such a fan of his for a while, and I was just really amped for that one. But yeah, so I was in a really good place, going into that fight, and he still landed that big shot that could have easily been the end of my night. But yeah, the Gonzalez, the Alex White fight, those were pretty good. And I go all the way back to like the Fabricio Camus fight, where there were little things that he did. He swept me, and he hit me a couple times, but then I ended up just letting my body do what I've trained it to do for my entire life, and it did it. And against a high level guy, and that was awesome. So yeah, I just want to get to that point where like I can just shut it off and do what I've trained to do and show off all the skills that I'm capable of. Because fact of the matter is I've tormented some of my training partners for years with things that I've never hit in fights. And I kind of want to, for their sake, for them, I want to be able to pull those things off in the octagon.
All right. Well, hopefully it happens Saturday night. Thanks, Jim.
Thank you.
Our last question is from Alistair Bishop with MMA Republic.
Jim, how are you, sir?
I'm good.
Fantastic. My first question is actually from my co-host. He wants to know why you shoot with the PSE.
Why do I shoot with a PSE? Yeah, you know what? My good buddy and archery coach, John Dudley. He sent me the PSE, and if he's handing me something, I'm gonna shoot it because he's the master. So whatever he says to do when it comes to flinging arrows, I'm gonna do.
Fantastic. You're a guy that I read an article not so long ago about the 3-decade man, someone in quite a long position as an MMA fighter who seemed to be getting better with age, if you can say it like that. What would your advice be, especially to someone like me from South Africa, to young aspiring MMA fighters to have a long career and a long successful career?
Don't let the bad days dictate like what you're doing, right? Like I've trained with a lot of guys over the years that were super talented and could have made it very far in the sport, but like your day-to-day is just going to be up and down. Like some days are going to be better than others, and you're going to have those days where you're not. And I've seen a lot of guys that they let the rough days where somebody that they normally are matched up pretty head to head with, they'll get the better of them, and they just let it affect them. And it's you just got to look at every opportunity as a learning experience, and make the most of it. And like I've had plenty of days, especially dealing with the Lyme disease, that my job when I was on the mats was kind of just to survive and to get through it and to protect myself. I needed to get the work in, and I wasn't in an optimal position to really like fight to my strengths or anything like that, or whatever it was, grappling, sparring, this or that. So it was kind of just do what I need to do, get solid reps in, and not get hurt. So yeah, like I would take those bad days, and I'd try to just get that little bit of everybody says the 1% better every day, and that's really what comes down to like dealing with the low spots.
Fantastic. And at this point in your career, what are the kind of fights that you're looking forward to, the ones that really get you out of bed?
Any of them. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. Like I said, that Guida fight, I was just super comfortable and excited to fight him. And it wasn't, there were no nerves. It was a kind of a different feeling. I don't know, just because I'm going in there, I'm fighting Clay, who's got a ton of really great wins on his record. But again, a fight that I know that I can win. And, I was just, there was nothing to lose. There's nothing to lose. I'd go out and fight my hardest against a legend, and I want to experience that again. I want to fight some more of these guys that I've not yet shared the octagon with, but shared the trenches with over these years. And I don't care if it's at 55s, 70s, hell, I'll go to 85s, and just share the octagon with some of these guys that I've been fans of throughout my career. And, but at the same time, I'll fight the up and comers, it doesn't matter. It's every fight is going to be different. Every fight is going to be, like I said, another opportunity to show off my skill set. So yeah, I like them all.
Awesome. Last one from me, Jim. Having done so much through your career, was fighting on the back end of a pandemic something you just absolutely had to do to add to the CV?
Yeah, like I'm not gonna put together this career and not ask to fight, during this or on Fight Island. I got to throw my name into the hat for that, even though I'm not necessarily looking forward to flying across the world. It's one of those things that I fought on a lot of these big cards. Yeah, it's like an '80s karate movie. Like I gotta go to Fight Island. So yeah, I'm looking forward to performing well on Saturday night, coming out of this healthy, and get another one hopefully by the end of the summer, and yeah, fight over there.
Fantastic. Thank you, sir, and all the best.
Thank you.
That's all we have for you today, Jim.